The sun hung low over the parched horizon of Dry Creek, New Mexico Territory, in the summer of 1878, casting long shadows across the dusty main street. The town was a forgotten speck on the map, a cluster of weathered adobe buildings and saloons where cowboys drowned their sorrows and ranchers bartered for survival. Dust devils swirled like restless spirits, and the air carried the faint scent of sagebrush and horse sweat. It was here, amid the relentless grind of frontier life, that Amanda Whitmore stepped off the stagecoach, her veil draped like a shroud over her face. She clutched her carpet bag tightly, her gloved hands trembling not from the heat but from the weight of her secrets. At 28, Amanda had once been the belle of a small Kansas town, admired for her grace and quick wit. But that was before the fire. Before the night, she dashed into a blazing church to pull a trapped boy from the flames, her own skin melting like wax under the inferno's fury. The boy lived, Amanda's beauty did not. Now, her face bore deep, jagged scars that twisted her features into something society deemed monstrous. She had hidden them ever since, behind veils and solitude, until her family's dwindling fortunes forced an arranged marriage to a stranger in this godforsaken place. Tyler Carter waited at the edge of the platform, his tall frame silhouetted against the fading light. At 35, he was a man carved from the land itself, broad-shouldered, with sun-leathered skin and eyes the color of storm clouds. His ranch sprawled across the arid hills, a testament to years of back-breaking toil. But Tyler carried his own scars, invisible ones etched into his soul. 5 years earlier, his wife, Eliza, a vision of golden curls and painted smiles, had fled with a silver-tongued gambler, leaving him with nothing but a hollow ranch house and a distrust of anything that glittered on the surface. When the matchmaker's letter arrived, proposing Amanda as a practical bride, Tyler had agreed. He didn't need love. He needed a partner who wouldn't lie or leave. As Amanda approached, her steps hesitant, Tyler tipped his hat. "Miss Whitmore," he said, his voice a low rumble like distant thunder. "I am Tyler Carter. Welcome to Dry Creek." She nodded, her veil fluttering slightly in the breeze. Up close, he could see the fine lace work, but he made no move to lift it. No questions, no demands. He simply took her bag and led her to his wagon, the silence between them thick but not uncomfortable. The ride to the ranch was long, the wagon jolting over ruts in the road. Amanda's heart pounded. What if he demanded to see her face? What if he sent her back? Finally, as the ranch house came into view, a sturdy log cabin with a wide porch, she gathered her courage. "Mr. Carter," she whispered, her voice muffled by the veil. "Before we proceed, I must tell you something. I'm not pretty." He reined in the horses, turning to face her. His expression was unreadable, but there was no recoil, no pity. "That's fine," he replied simply. "I need honest, not fancy." The words hung in the air, a lifeline thrown into her storm-tossed sea. Amanda blinked back tears, unsure if she could believe them. But Tyler didn't press. He helped her down, showed her to a small room with a quilted bed and a wash basin, and left her to settle in. That night, as the coyotes howled in the distance, Amanda lay awake, wondering if this rugged cowboy could truly mean what he said. Their wedding the next day was a quiet affair at the town's makeshift chapel, presided over by a grizzled preacher who smelled of whiskey. Amanda kept her veil on, even as she repeated her vows. Tyler's ring felt heavy on her finger, a symbol of a union built on necessity rather than romance. The townsfolk whispered as they left, curious eyes boring into her concealed face, but Tyler paid them no mind. He drove her home in silence, the weight of their new life settling like dust after a storm. The first weeks were marked by restraint. Amanda rose before dawn to tend the chores, her veil always in place. She cooked simple meals, cornbread, beans, and whatever game Tyler brought home, serving them at the scarred oak table without a word. Tyler, in turn, never asked about her past. He spoke little, but his actions spoke volumes. One morning, he left a wildflower on her plate, its petals a splash of color against the drab routine. Another day, he mended a tear in her apron without being asked. Communication came in fits and starts. Amanda, afraid her voice might betray her fragility, began leaving notes. "The fence in the north pasture needs fixing," she'd write in her neat script. Tyler would respond in kind, his handwriting rough but legible. "Done." "Coffee's on the stove." Slowly, these scraps of paper became bridges. She learned he preferred his eggs sunny side up. He discovered she had a way with herbs, turning bland stews into something almost flavorful. One evening, as the sun dipped below the mesas, Tyler found her in the garden, weeding with gloved hands. "You don't have to hide from the dirt," he said, kneeling beside her. "It don't judge." Amanda paused, her heart skipping. "But people do." He nodded, pulling a stubborn root from the earth. "People are fools. Me, I reckon truth's worth more than a pretty lie." His words chipped away at her walls. For the first time in years, Amanda felt seen, not for her scars, but for the woman beneath. She began to share snippets of her life before the fire, stories of Kansas winters, the laughter of her siblings. Tyler listened, his gray eyes steady, offering his own tales in return. The thrill of a cattle drive, the sting of Eliza's betrayal. She was beautiful, he admitted one night over flickering lantern light, but hollow as a dried-up well. Lied about everything, even the color of the sky. Amanda's hand trembled on her veil. "And me? What if I'm hollow too?" "You're not," he said firmly. "I can tell." As summer faded into fall, kindness bloomed like desert flowers after rain. Tyler taught her to ride, his hands gentle on the reins as he guided her. Amanda baked him a pie from wild berries, watching his face light up with the first bite. They shared sunsets on the porch, the silence now companionable. Yet the veil remained, a barrier she couldn't yet cross. What if he saw and turned away? The thought gnawed at her, a suspenseful shadow over their growing bond. The town, however, was not so kind. Dry Creek thrived on gossip, and Amanda's veiled presence became fodder for the saloon's idle tongues. "What's she hiding under there?" sneered Millie Hargrove, the banker's wife at the general store. "Bet she's uglier than a buzzard's breakfast." Laughter rippled through the crowd, and Amanda, overhearing from behind shelf, felt her old wounds reopen like fresh cuts. She confided in Tyler that night, her voice shaking. "They mock what they don't understand." "Let him talk," he growled, his jaw set. "Ain't none of their business." But the cruelty escalated. Notes appeared on their gate. "Unveil the freak." Children threw stones at her shadow. Amanda's spirit frayed, her confidence eroding like sandstone in the wind. She withdrew, spending days inside, her notes to Tyler growing sparse. Then came the storm. It rolled in from the west one October afternoon, black clouds churning like a vengeful sea. Thunder cracked the sky, and rain lashed the earth in sheets. Tyler was out mending fences when the wind howled to a frenzy, ripping shingles from the barn roof. Amanda watched from the window, horror rising as the structure groaned under the assault. A deafening crash echoed, the barn collapsing in a tangle of timber and hay. Inside, the horses screamed in terror, trapped amid the debris. Without thinking, Amanda bolted into the deluge, her veil whipping wildly. "Tyler," she called, but he was nowhere in sight. The horses' panicked whinnies pierced the chaos. She couldn't leave them to die. Heart pounding, she plunged into the wreckage, splintered wood tearing at her skirts. Rain blinded her as she heaved beams aside, her hands bloodied. One horse, a bay mare named Daisy, was pinned under a fallen rafter. Amanda strained, muscles burning, until the beam shifted just enough. Daisy bolted free, followed by the others. But as Amanda turned to escape, a jagged plank caught her veil, ripping it away with a sickening tear. She froze, exposed for the first time in years. The scars twisted her cheek and jaw, puckered skin pulling her mouth into a perpetual grimace. Lightning flashed, illuminating her face in stark relief. And there, emerging from the storm like a ghost, was Tyler, drenched, wide-eyed, staring. Amanda's world tilted. She braced for revulsion, for the rejection she'd always feared. But Tyler didn't flinch. He stepped closer, rain streaming down his face, and cupped her scarred cheek with a calloused hand. "Amanda," he said, voice rough with emotion, "you saved them. You're brave as hell." Tears mixed with rain on her face. "But look at me. I am," he replied, "and I see strength. Honesty. That's what I need." In that moment, amid the ruins, something shifted. Tyler helped her back to the house, wrapping her in a blanket by the fire. He didn't speak of her scars again that night, but his touch lingered, gentle, affirming. For the first time, Amanda slept without the veil, her face bare to the world. Yet the town's venom proved relentless. Word of the storm spread, twisted into mockery, the veiled which showed her true form. At church, whispers turned to stares. At the store, outright jeers. Amanda's resolve crumbled under the barrage. "I'm not enough," she sobbed to Tyler one night. "I'll never be." "You are to me," he insisted, but her doubts drowned him out. In the dead of night, she packed her bag and slipped away, riding a spare horse to her aging mother's homestead 50 miles east. The journey was agony, dust choking her lungs, fear nipping at her heels. But solitude seemed safer than scorn. Tyler awoke to an empty house, her note on the table. "I'm sorry. I can't burden you anymore." Panic gripped him like a vice. He saddled up at dawn, racing to town for answers. At the saloon, amid the haze of cigar smoke, he cornered the preacher. "Tell me about her past." "All of it." The old man sighed. "The fire in Kansas. She saved little Tommy Jenkins, pulled him from a blaze. But the flames, they took her face. Folks forgot the hero, remembered the horror." Tyler's fists clenched. Hero. That's what she was, a woman of courage, not the monster they painted. Realization hit him like a thunderbolt. He loved her, not despite her scars, but because of the truth they represented. His life without her was a barren plain, empty and echoing. He rode hard to her mother's place, arriving dust-caked and weary. Amanda's mother, frail but fierce, met him at the door. "She's broken, son, but if you love her, prove it." Amanda emerged from the shadows, her face unveiled but eyes downcast. "Tyler, because I need you," he said, voice cracking. "Not to save you, but because you're my truth. Come home." She hesitated, suspense hanging like a noose. But in his eyes, she saw no pity, only honest want. Nodding, she mounted behind him, the ride back a quiet promise. At the ranch, Tyler set to work on a quiet act of devotion. He retrieved her torn wedding dress from the barn ruins, its lace shredded and muddied. By lantern light, he threaded a needle, his rancher's hands clumsy but determined, and stitched it back together. The seams were crooked, the patches imperfect, but each puncture was laced with love. When dawn broke, he hung the dress on the porch railing, fluttering like a flag of defiance. Beside it, he nailed a hand-carved sign, "Honored here, the brave and true." The town noticed. Whispers turned to murmurs as folks passed by, seeing the mended garment in all its flawed glory. Millie Hargrove paused, her sneer fading. Children pointed wide-eyed. Slowly, the mockery ebbed, replaced by a grudging respect. Amanda stepped onto the porch, touching the dress with trembling fingers. "You fixed it." "Best I could," Tyler said, pulling her close. "Like us, broken but real." In that embrace, under the vast New Mexico sky, they found their ending, or rather their beginning. Love, they learned, wasn't born of beauty's fleeting glow. It sparked from courage in the flames, honesty in the storm, and the grace to cherish scars as badges of the soul.